So it's such a pleasure to speak with you today about Girl, You Know It's True. I really enjoyed the film, and I was curious, since you were a child when Milli Vanilli really got popular and all this actually happened, what are your memories of that time? Were you a Milli Vanilli fan, or what was kind of your relationship there?
That's a very interesting question. When the scandal happened around the Milli Vanilli about Milli Vanilli, it was the same time when the wall came down in Germany. East Germany, West Germany reunited. So I kind of explored the pop duo a few years later when I was in my, when I my 15, 16, 17, and when I started to prep for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the time frame there for Germany. That makes the film all the more interesting too, since so much of it's taking place in Munich. And you play Frank Farian and in the movie, and there's a very complicated legacy he's left behind because he helped created such great music and just beyond all the lip syncing everything. There are also, a lot of legal battles as is touched on in this film where there
Yeah.
were manipulative contracts with figures. So, what aspects did you really focus on for your portrayal of Frank?
I think first I started to work on, hey, what's the human aspect of, like, really Frank? What was his dream? Why was he doing what he did? Yeah, and feelings about what he really loved, what he was excited for. Why did he make these decisions? And why didn't he never tell the truth, what they're really doing, why this happened? So, but first I focused on, and that was really helpful for me. He wanted to have a number one song in the States, and I totally understood that as a German. I'm always dreaming of having an Oscar one day, and or maybe two, three, four, five, but yeah. So that was the thing I most focused on while we did the film. The maniac vision of him becoming a producer who has a number one song in the world.
And another aspect I really like in this film, there's a really interesting dynamic when Frank starts losing the duo to Los Angeles and to the record companies in the States because he feels like he's invested in them and they're his, and obviously he doesn't own them, but there's a real struggle there for somebody that's obviously a control freak. So what did you like most about that element of him losing control of his creation?
Yeah, that's a very fantastic question. Thank you so much. Really, it's because I think on the other hand, he always tried to dream big, but then when it happened, I think he couldn't really realize it that was real, and he wanted to hold on it. It's always the thing to let things go, and he was holding on it so tight and so heavy that nothing is going wrong, that he made these weird and horrible decisions at the end. Yeah.
And another thing I liked about this movie in particular, we've seen a lot of music biopics recently, but with this one, there's a nice flair to it. It's breaking the fourth wall. You're talking directly into the camera at points, and it gives it a different feel from a lot of these other movies. What did you like most about that kind of meta aspect of, you're like, oh, they're gonna sue me in a couple years, and just breaking the fourth wall occasionally during these kind of interludes in the film.
I mean, when we did it, I kind of like in general, because what we're all doing is entertainment, and we're gonna sell like dreams. Yeah, that's what we that's and feelings. And I kind of like the idea the director had to say, hey, talk to the people, ask them what they would do in his position. What would they, is that right? What would they have done?
Yeah,
You
what would
know,
they do?
to and it's interesting just to really ask yourself, hey, would I have, killed my dream, or would I have told the truth? And that's what I really like with the fourth wall.
Yeah, it's so easy to cast judgment, especially in retrospect and seeing it all fall apart. But there are those complications of, like you feel bad in different sections for every person involved in this, and it, I really like the history that the movie gets into because I didn't know, I wasn't aware of like Boney M and how Frank had like basically done Milli Vanilli before them and had done these groups with that are just lip syncing. Like it's very brazen to that it's not a one-off, that he'd gotten away with it before and he was trying to do it as a a breakthrough in multiple countries here. It's a pretty wild true story.
It's a pretty wild true story, yeah. And I even didn't know, when I was prepping the film, it was so interesting what he did, and it was great. It's crazy. It's crazy that that was real.
Yeah, and I really like the actress that you work with who plays Millie, Bella Dane. She's really great in this film. What stood out about her as a scene partner? Because you two share some really good scenes.
Oh yeah, she was great. I love Bella too. She was always like super prepared, and she was acting her heart out. The same for Tijan and Elan, the boys. They've been awesome. They uh, they all did a great job.
And it's been really interesting seeing your projects the past couple years because you've been alternating between these more serious drama roles with like Swimmers and Oppenheimer and this, and then you've done comedy so well in like Army of Thieves and Family Switch. So when you're taking projects, are you thinking in the back of your head that you don't want to get typecast? How do you kind of select your projects?
In Germany, it's always sometimes very difficult because we don't have this huge field of genre, where you could choose between an action thriller or horror or an adventure movie or a family entertainment movie, blah, blah. So I love, what I love about these movies. Sometimes I really like to be funny, and I like the rhythm to be funny, and I love drama, and I love action. So now, having the opportunity to work a bit more in the States, it's amazing that I can choose between genres. So, and woo, I love it because the audience in America is wonderful. Because they all, they never judge you for, okay, now he's doing comedy, now he's doing drama, now he's a singer. I love that. I love to be entertaining.
Yeah, and you've certainly been entertaining. It's fun seeing such range from you, and you're really great in Oppenheimer. And I was just curious, since you are a director yourself, what stood out about working with Christopher Nolan? Because he won Best Director for that film as well, so you really got to see another master at work.
Yeah, I mean, I was, to be honest, I was I was so nervous all the time, when we started shooting the film. It's Christopher Nolan. I mean, but it was always very funny at the other hand, because one of my closest friends is Zack Snyder. And it's so funny to call Zack Snyder because he just spoke to his friend Christopher Nolan. And that was always very weird. To call Zack and he said, "Oh yeah, I just talked to Chris." And that was always very, very weird, but and funny at the same time, because the world is small, and they're all friends. So it was great to I learned a lot to work with him, and yeah, of course he's a master director. He's crazy. He's, I think, the best director at the moment in the world.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. And then my last question for you, you obviously directed Army of Thieves. Are you looking to direct again soon, or do you have any idea of what's next for you behind the camera?
So there will be surprise, surprise. We will soon announce my next movie as a director, and
Awesome.
it will be very funny.